Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Summit. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today I am joined by Dan Mangena. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And this is where we learn to raise our frequency to connect more deeply with yourself, your soulmate, and the divine. And the way that I start every one of these interviews is I like to do an alignment process. And what this does is just helps you get connected and really open and present to receiving whatever information is shared. So if you will join me by closing your eyes and then tune into your breath, deepening your breath into your belly. And as you're breathing, get in touch with the light in your heart light, and feel that heart light growing and expanding out around your chest. And now tune in to the light above your head. This is the central sun and the light in the central sun. This is the divine masculine heart light. And feel that light coming down through the ethers and into your heart center, joining with the light in your heart. And now tune in to the light in the center of the earth. This is the heart of the Mother Earth, the divine feminine heart light. And as you're breathing, bring that light up through the layers of the earth and feel it moving into your body. And it's like liquid crystal plasma moving into every cell and then joining with the light from above and the light in your heart, and just feel that trinity of light now expanding and creating a portal of light within your heart. And feel that light expanding out to connect with every other person listening to this call or watching this across all time and space, knowing that we are all on this ascension journey together and that we are all connected and supporting each other on this journey. And also connect in with myself and Dan, knowing that we are here to help you as well. Okay, and now with that, feel free to open your eyes, feeling more present, and welcome. So today, Dan is actually going to be interviewing me. This is the final day of our summit, and it's been an amazing journey. And I've been just so incredibly inspired by all of the people watching, all of the feedback I've received, all of the love notes. I'm just like, my heart is so expanded. I'm just overjoyed by the speakers, have been wonderful. And now I also get to share Dan with you. And Dan is just this very special person who you're going to love. So thank you for joining us. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, and now enjoy the conversation.
So, wa-shay-la, W-A-X-E-L-A, pronounced W-A-S-H-A-L-A-Y.
Something like that.
Were you born as a wa-shay-la in physical form before reincarnated in wa-shay-la form?
That is a multidimensional question. So, are you asking me how I got that name?
I believe that I am. That feels like a great way to go with that question.
That's a good story to start with. Okay, let's go. I was not born wa-shay-la in this life. That was my spirit, but I told my parents when I was very young, I think about 3 years old, I told my mother that they named me the wrong name. And
Interesting.
I was on a quest to find my real name.
Love it.
Fast forward, I was in my early 20s, maybe 23. I was traveling with a Native American shaman who also happened to be a walk-in, very interesting being. And I was having a lot of multidimensional experiences. We went to study with his mentor, who was a Lakota medicine woman in outside of Prescott, Arizona. And she had these, it was this land, you couldn't even find it if you didn't know where it was. And if you weren't invited there, it was very off the grid. And it was also sort of cloaked, I guess would be the word, to anyone that wasn't meant to be there. So we arrived there. There were 13 medicine wheels on her land. And from the time you get up in the morning until the time you go to bed, you are expected to be in prayer, in medicine wheel prayer. So whether you're with other people or just the dogs, there were 13 dogs there and a wolf, and the little dogs would come and sit with you when you went into meditation, because you would go so far out of body. They were the guardians, and they'd watch your body while you were gone. And so one of the days when I went out to be in medicine wheel ceremony, I asked to receive my spirit name, my real name. And so in that particular ceremony, I sat, the dogs came and helped me, and I went out, and at some point I had one of those experiences where, those experiences where there's more going on than the third dimension. So you can experience more in one moment. So I had two Mayan, I call them grandmothers or abuelas, came, and one was in front of me and one was above my head. And so the one in front of me put out her hand, and she was working in front of my heart center, and all of his energy was just being, received and given. And the other one was above my head, moving her hand around above my head. And so the two of them at the same time sort of created this energetic bubble. It was so real and visceral, and there was so much energy, and there was more to experience than there is in 3D. And so at the same moment, they gave me my name, the sound vibrational experience of it, the spelling of it, the meaning of it, where it came from, why it belongs to me, and what it what it means on so many levels. And there was a frequency download that came with it, and the understanding that when I would be called this name, it was like it calling me out, calling me into my service, my path, my mission. And it was up to me whether or not to choose to use this name here, but that in choosing to use the name, it was an acceptance of there's a higher calling for me here, and is stepping onto that path in a bigger way.
Wow. Okay, so not a little entry then. Wasn't found in a fortune cookie. You didn't get it in the post. There was a full-on interdimensional journey that you went on. My family's from Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, and there's this whole thing about the importance of a name and the meaning of names, and a lot of time goes into selecting a child's name because you're calling into their life what you're asking for them. So I've got cousins called Blessing, I've got a cousin called Patience, I've got one called Privilege. Some really interesting names, and even when you switch over to the dialect of Zulu that my family speak, which is Ndebele, and look at the meaning of names there's always a really deep meaning to the name. So my older sister's name means God hears and answers our prayers. My sister's a mother of goodness, a mother of peace, consecutively. There's a lot that goes into it. So I'm very familiar with the idea that a name really has a massive importance. So when you went on this journey and you were given this name, you were given a connection to almost an interdimensional truth of yourself, of your being, that gets ignited and fired and sparked up every time that you're called. So whenever someone speaks to you, they're reaffirming this interdimensional beingness of you, and almost giving your consciousness an opportunity to step back into that space and re-resonate with the beauty of that experience. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Quite a wild one. There are many layers to that story that I need to talk to you about. And we'll see how much we'll get today, because there's so much that I want to, so much of you that I want to share with everyone here on the podcast. The epicness of my work with you really to now culminated when I did your Ascension training a few months ago. And since then, my experience with energy has not been the same. And, I'd really like to sort of focus talking about the Ascension training, what you're doing, because of course, that's your signature program right now for people that are connected with you.
It is.
And Waxela's got a free Facebook group where you can sort of engage with her and find out a bit more about it. So I'll make sure I put the link to that in the show notes. But aside from the kick-assness that you're doing with your book, which got bestseller, hello, welcome. I really want to take some time getting people to step into the idea of Ascension training and perhaps take it off of this weird pedestal and bring it down into our heart, where we can actually experience this beautiful connection with the divine through Ascension training and what you're doing to support people in that journey. So if we were to talk about Ascension training in terms of your intention for it, where would you open up that conversation?
Well, I would say, first of all, Ascension has kind of this idea around it that it's leaving your body or something like that, or you know, leaving the body and going somewhere else. And while there is this element of multidimensionality to the Ascension training, it's not about leaving the body. It's actually about moving more deeply into the body and integrating the spirit and the energy and the essence of life and connection to the divine into the body, and particularly into the heart center to activate the heart, because the heart is a multidimensional portal that you can travel into and through and access everything through the heart. So I like to say it's not really ascension, it's inscension. It's moving in to the body. And I also call myself an embodiment coach, training people to bring those frequencies into the body so that they can be more present, feel more, experience more, and have more energy available to use. So that's key in the primary understanding of ascension is not getting out, it's getting in. And so many people, we've had traumas, we've had, you know, there's so many sensitive people that are spiritual. We tend to get heady, we go up, we get in our heads, and you can tell when you're operating only from your head, you're really not receiving the good stuff that life has to offer. You've got to get into the heart and into the lower chakras to ground that mental energy. We can create with our minds, but we can't really manifest until we bring that energy in and get it all the way in our bodies, all the way down to our lower chakras. And that's where we can root into the earth and start really creating.
I love that intention. And I think this is one of the areas where we've really crossed over in terms of our philosophies here. One of those areas that it's not about spending all of your time out in the void, because at the end of the day, you manifested in three-dimensional form in a body to have an experience. And so one of the things that definitely called me to what you do is that it's not about going out more, it's about bringing more of the fullness of who we are, which includes an element of us out there, in fact the bigger part of us, and bring that into the body so that we can have the fullness of the experience here. I remember people talk about going to other dimensions, and you're like, well, let's talk about shifting physically through to other dimensions versus only doing it with consciousness. So I think that's great. And I think it's one of the things that sets you apart from a lot of the people that I've seen that talk about this work. And I think it's one of the things that allows someone who perhaps looks at a lot of consciousness-based conversations in a bit of a woo-woo, you know, has no groundedness, doesn't really serve a physical purpose, allows that conversation to be one that you can step into. And instead of running away from this beautiful aspect of ourselves in terms of spirit and consciousness and energy, and embody it, bring it into the body and allow it to inform how you show up in your life, you know. Because I've got dear friends who they go off and do 1,000,001 different plant medicine stuffs, but then they can't show up for a phone call on time because they're just so out of it, you know. They're not taking care of business around the home, or, you know, maybe they're not, and I'm not saying from a judgmental perspective, just life isn't being taken care of because there's this disconnect. Whereas working with the tools that you offer and the way that you bring things about, it's taking all that lovely, good, juicy goodness and bringing it in so that you can show up fully and really make the most out of this experience in a meat suit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, when you do that, and I was one of those airy-fairy hippies in my early 20s when I first discovered meditation and chanting, and I'm like, whoa, I spent a lot of time out there, you know, and that was fun, right? But and you know, life goes on. I had children, family, created business, you know, and I wanted, you know, want to do more than you don't just get to keep meditating your whole life unless that's your choice. But what I, you know, and it was a process for me. And I know looking back, if someone had told me then, you're not embodied, I would have said, well, yes, I am. Or your heart center isn't open, I would have said, well, that's not true. I think it is, you know, because you only know what you know. And you a lot of times don't even realize until you get to that next level that there is another level. There's always another level, you know. I don't think that I've arrived. I've just, you know, taken some steps. It's the never ending layers of the onion, you know, the infinite onion, peeling back the layers. And that's the beauty of it. You know, there's always another level to get to. Now I know, you know, like, oh, wow, you know, I've only just begun in many ways, although I've been doing this 30 years. I've just taken, you know, baby steps. There's so much more, and it's fun. As soon as you think you've arrived, I think that's when, you know, maybe that's point one, you know.
So step one, I've arrived. So you've arrived at the beginning of the journey. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. Because the farther you go, you know, it's that whole concept. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, right? The more there is that you realize that, oh, wow, there's so much more.
Yeah, it's like Socrates, the wisest being is the one that knows they know nothing at all. There is always another wave to surf. There is always another layer of the onion, like you said. There is always more. But again, I come back to the beauty of my own experience with your work is you can explore it and still be grounded enough in your three-dimensional experience to apply it to your life versus just being off in the ethers on a interdimensional cloud. So you take that journey to get something that serves you and how you're showing up in your life so that you can be of service to others. You can play your role in the universal tapestry of reality for others too. And that for me is really, really beautiful. And one of the things I really, really love about what you're doing.
Yeah, it's not only the beginning of getting in, it's like there's always more. I mean, when we start to use the bodies as a tool to interface with you know, the layers of reality, first, you know, there's steps of it, but the first step is getting in and starting to feel. You know, I realize a lot of people that are out of body, they don't feel that reaction that your body has. Like for me, I've learned to listen to my body. When my heart or my gut says yes to something, like I feel that. And I know, okay, that's way more knowledgeable than my head. I'm going to go with that because that's the truth. You know, that's what's right for me. My head has to think about it. maybe, maybe not. But if my heart or my gut is like a yes, I can feel that in my body. My body, sometimes various parts of my body will have a, a question, a reaction, like I was doing an interview the other day with someone, and like my stomach, or I don't even know anatomy well enough to know, like, was it a gland, was it the pancreas, I don't know, something in
Something like
there said, like, had a question, like I heard it, it's like, ask her this, and I'm like, oh wow. And it happened to me. It was with Yvette Rose, who wrote Metaphysical Anatomy. And
oh
so it
wow.
was, because it was my body speaking to her, like, I want to know, I
That's
want to know
hilarious.
about this thing. I'm like, okay, let's ask that question. And so I just gave up my script in all of my interviews, because, I have to listen to that person and what they're saying. If you're really present, there doesn't need to be a script, right? You just go with
Mm,
what's there. The body, the more you're in it, every part of it has something to say. But first, you have to excavate the trash. Like, you have to take out the trash. You have to
mhm,
get rid of the trauma and the
mhm,
baggage enough that there's enough space for the spirit to get in. And so
mm.
step one of getting into the body is, it can feel yucky. It can feel like, ooh, it doesn't feel that great in here. Well, it doesn't feel great because you haven't been taking the trash out on Sunday night.
It stinks. It stinks.
There's some old stuff lying around. You've been hoarding. You got to
Yeah.
get that stuff out. So that's step one, is to get that old stuff out. And I do have, that's the beginning of the process.
Mhm,
And then, well, it's one of the, there's mindset, but then there's getting in and excavating that stuff. And then
mhm,
as you take out the trash, as you get rid of the traumas, you look at them, you don't have to spend a lot of time.
mhm.
You don't need to get back into your trauma and like be in torture and excruciated pain. You just have to recognize that, oh, I've been storing that in my kidneys. I need to
Mhm.
let that go so I can make room for something better, for something that feels good. And when you recognize it, you can let it go and release it, and then replace it and recode it. And I get into recoding in my
Yes,
training.
I love a
And
bit of
then
coding.
you create a new program to put in there, and once it's gone, so you don't want to just leave it empty.
Mhm.
And then you start to embody more and more. And you find, as you bring in more light and more spirit into the body, more of that old trash starts to show up. The trauma starts to come up. I've had things come up from childhood, from my teenage years, and that I didn't even remember. I didn't even think, I thought that was gone. I thought I dealt with that, but there it is. And you have to
Mhm.
be willing to look at that stuff, say, oh, hi, okay, I didn't know you were stuck there, and let it go. And
Mhm.
things will show up, and they'll, if you're listening, if you're willing to interact with them and have a communication and not run away. It takes being courageous, because it's not always fun to look at these things. But when you look at them and acknowledge them and can actually thank those things for serving you in some way, oh, I had that experience and it made me better because I learned whatever I learned, and then release it and then replace it with a new program, an upgrade, then you shift yourself, you shift your body to hold a new higher frequency. And that is embodying the higher codes, that is embodying the higher frequencies. And the more you practice that, and the more you do that, and the more you bring those frequencies in, the more your body comes online. It's like programming a computer with really great programs. You're taking out the old, you're clearing the trash, and then you're putting in the new high-tech apps that you want to use. And you have this new way to interface with life and with people. And, where I used to be pretty much a homebody, like I didn't want to go out, I didn't want to interact, I didn't want to get into conversations that much. But now it's like, that's what life is about. That's
Mhm.
that's what. And there, you have to look at, what are you putting between you and life? What is that thing
Mhm.
that's keeping you from interfacing with life? Because that other person is just yourself in another body. And don't you want to know yourself more?
Mm. I love that. I love that. I love that. What are you putting between you and life? And that can sometimes be like you said, it can be the trash that we haven't even acknowledged because we haven't gone in to do the cleaning. And when we do let go of that junk, we can then start to recode with new programs. And as stuff comes up, we can then actually be more empowered and more equipped to just swat it away. It's okay, you know, I'm dealing with that, I'm dealing with that. And that's when we can have a truly full, joyful, abundant, happy life, which connects with humans rather than hiding at home and pretending that they don't exist.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, not even swatting it away, but like when a trigger shows up, that's part of my training is celebrate it. Like, what, you got mad at the grocery store at
I
the
remember that
checkout
one.
for being
Oh
too
gosh, I
mean?
remember that bit. That was a really
Celebrate
interesting.
that. You
That
just
was really
triggered a
interesting.
trigger point.
That was
Yay!
an interesting. Yay!
Celebrate those triggers because now you know they exist. You can't work with them. You can't work with what you don't know exists. Once you
God,
can recognize it exists, then you can work with it, and that's the success. You got
brilliant.
mad? Yay, celebrate it. You just became aware of a trigger. What made you mad? There you go. Work on that and you can release it.
Exactly. So we
Yeah.
could say that our, our greater conscious self, which sees more of the picture, can communicate to us through those triggers as to where we have space to grow and improve and have a more fuller, joyful experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm.
also like that authenticity of being honest about it. You know, I'm a mom, I'm a single parent half the time. And
Mm-hmm.
my son, sometimes I get triggered, you know, it happens. I'll occasionally yell at him for something. And then I'm instead, and a lot of parents do this, they will beat themselves up for that. Like later, instead of beating myself up, I'll walk over to him when I catch it. I'm like, wow, I was really being grumpy, wasn't I?
I love it.
Like, he's like, oh yeah. Like, you know, I just got triggered. I got triggered because I was upset about this thing. And now I realize I was taking that out on you and I'm sorry. You know what you could do to help me? You could just wash your dishes when you're done eating. And you mind your business by washing the dishes and I'll mind my business by not being upset that you didn't and just asking you to do it. Right? You
And
know,
the
not
world
beat myself up for it, but not
yeah.
beat him up for, you know, not doing that thing, but just noticing, recognizing it. Hey, we're all human. And then he gets to see me in my process and
Mm-hmm.
be honest about it. I'm not perfect. I have my moments. I can still acknowledge that, recognize it, work through it with him, and then move on, you know, and create. And in that, instead of creating a detachment, I'm creating more connection, you know?
Absolutely love that. Love that. I'd love to start to pull some of these lovely threads over to talking about your book, which was on pre-release. When does it actually release? It's this February, right?
February, I think I'm going to get it in February 11th. That's my
Okay.
goal. So that's coming right up. And then it will be fully available. And what I'm a little behind on is getting there's a body of meditations, probably 3 or 4 meditations that go with it that will be available on my website. So I will reference that. So the book
Okay.
first, then the meditations will come out, but that's going to be really helpful to do the meditations along with the book.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So the Love You Crave, a course in ascension, alchemy, and a connection to the divine.
Yeah.
Quite a title. When I first saw the Love You Crave, I thought it was going to be a purely relationship book.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts to talk about ascension, alchemy, and connection to the divine. So I'm guessing, let me just check with my spleen, pancreas, stomach thing. I'm guessing that we're not talking about sexy time love here. We're talking about divine love.
You know, we're talking about love on a lot of levels, but
Mm,
here's what I have noticed. Myself and many other people that I've encountered on this journey have experienced a lot of loneliness.
Mm.
And even, and maybe especially within the context of expanding yourself spiritually, expanding your consciousness, and opening up that door, we start to feel sometimes this disconnection with the third dimension of reality that we're living in.
Mhm.
Sometimes it results, the more you expand and raise your frequency, you might start to feel disconnected from your family or from your old friends, from your high school buddies, from some of those people that were your regular people in your life, because you're thinking differently, you're experiencing life differently. And it opens up this door of, wow, now I understand myself in a more conscious and aware way, but I feel really lonely. Like I miss my best friend, or, my family doesn't relate to me anymore. And then it can carry over into relationships, sometimes, marriages or partnerships, or separations happen. And there's this pervasive loneliness that seems to be a common thread in so many people. And so the Love You Crave, the intention behind that title is to find and reconnect with that internal love, to like make yourself whole again, to
Mm.
get into the heart center and complete that perception of I am missing something and someone else needs to fill that for me so I can be complete and whole.
Mhm.
But the Love You Crave is about finding that within yourself and reestablishing your connection to that within you, so that you no longer need to look for someone else to complete you. You don't need a partner. You don't need your children. You don't need anybody else to complete that, because you have it within you. You just forgot where it was, or you were disconnected from it in some way. So
Mm.
this is a process of getting that love back and replacing that loneliness with an experience of connection, an experience of interacting in a way that you're no longer trying to get something from someone else. When you have filled your heart, you are spilling over. And then you're contributing to the other people that you encounter. You're contributing to the world. And you're not trying to get anymore. You're trying to give. And you just
Mm.
are giving, And
Change.
that's the love you crave.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This is so yummy on so many different levels, because this actually mirrors 3 or 4 different conversations I've had recently, and even something that I've been working on with myself. I was speaking with someone a little while ago, I think about 3 months ago, and she was talking about, she was making an observation about me, and she was saying, the second that you turn that love inwards and actually secure a deeper relationship with the divine, then that just heals. It just takes care of so much healing for you, and also just sets you up to be able to properly engage in your relationships with the people around you, whether it's your family, your business, or whatever, in a much more healthy way, because you do have that foundation, that really healthy divine love foundation. There's that piece, and there's also the piece of the fact that it's something that the guides said through Paul Selig, which I know someone you're very familiar with. And I did a post about this on my Instagram. I think I put it on Facebook too, that God is in the man that you don't like.
Yeah.
Right? And there was something else that was said. It's like, you cannot stand in the light and hold another in darkness. Right? One thing that came up when I was doing a coaching weekend the other week, and last weekend with one of the attendees, was this whole idea that healing the relationship with the divine can happen using the people, places, and things in our life as avatars of that relationship. Because if God is in the man you don't like, it's also in the man you do like, and in the man that you're neutral to. And it's also like everything is, if we're talking about the oneness of, like, the true oneness of everything, then absolutely every single thing that I engage in offers me the opportunity to have an interface, to interact with the divine, with divine love. It just ends up being this massive, big, beautiful whirlpool of love right? Where everything becomes an opportunity to go more deeply into our heart, more deeply into love, and to really connect more with the truth of who we are as strands of the divine, and just expand and expand. But again, the wa-shay-la way, with embodiment, and very grounded and very whole and coherent, not just an up in the clouds thing, but a really, like a feel, like you said, really something you can feel, like a yummy, gooey, in my heart, let me have it, feels so good way.
Yeah. Yeah. How else is there to do it? I mean, right?
No,
We have these bodies, you know, and that's the thing. Like I want to speak into this for a minute. We live in a culture that body shames, or like your body needs to be this way or that way. It's not good enough unless it's like this. People fill their faces, you know, with stuff, and and you know, we're constantly judging ourselves and others for their bodies. But yet our bodies are like our greatest gift. You know, that right there, that disconnect is something we absolutely must heal for ourselves and all future generations. If we want to be a conscious society, if we want to be conscious people, we have to first heal our relationship with the body. You know, even calling it a meat suit, or, you know, there are all kinds of things that we hear it called, right? But it's a technology. It is it's a high technology that has all of these amazing things. It can feel and sense and perceive and speak, and we can hear it, and we can pick things up, and we have telepathy through it, and we have these organs in our brain and our heart, and you know, they interface with other realities. I mean, there's so much this technology can do. We have to appreciate it, and you know, and treat it well, and love it, and you know, and love all of it. You know, the things that we do and don't like, it's not about what it looks like, you know, it's about what it can do. And we forget, you know, like, it's so much more than we give it credit for. We have got to love our bodies and respect them and give them, you know, the love they crave, because they are in service. You know, it's also, the body is a being. It has its own consciousness, and our spirit has come into it and is living in it, you know, taking it over, like, you know, like the horse, you know, like an equestrian. We are the spirit riding the horse, and the body succumbs and serves us for its whole life. It doesn't get to do its own will most of the time. It is, if we've mastered it well, it will do our will. It'll do anything we want it to do, and we have to trust it and go into communication with it, but also love it. And the more love we give it, and the more awareness and consciousness and gratitude we bring into it and offer it, the more available it is to us, the more it wants to give us. That's how relationships are. You know, the more we put into them, the more they want to put into us. And it's a communication, it's a collaboration. And it's not just a body, it is so powerful, and it's capable of so much more than we give it credit for.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Because I just got so much out of your program, your 3-month program. It was very heavy at times. Obviously, we've had some very, but a lot was.
Well, you know, when you start bringing in the light, the trash comes out, and that's part of it, and it's okay.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I think, did I tell you that it came to me in my meditation, something, I don't remember what the exact thing was, that something happened in my meditation, and then I saw something about your Ascension training like the same day or the next day, and I had this knowing, like, got to do it. I was like, all right, cool, do it. And I don't even think you finished telling me about it. I was like, yep, sign me up. I don't even think you even told me what it cost or anything like that. I was just like, yep, I'm doing it. You're like, okay. It's like, because it just lined up so perfectly with where I was at the time. And I think sometimes when we're looking at consciousness expansion type work, the tangibles can become a bit more difficult to grasp. I know even like with my my alchemic life creation work that I do with clients, it's not as, generally it's not as easy to have these quantifiable, really tangible results. But again, the embodiment aspect that you bring into it, I think really allows there to be that tangible aspect to it. I mean, I've got my sensitivity to energy has just gone through the roof since doing it, like
Wonderful.
through the roof. And I've done a lot of work with energy reading and awakening to my gifts and stuff over the last few years, like a lot of work and bringing that into my work. But the sensitivity levels just went, anyway. It's very interesting.
I love that. I'd love to hear, like, what was there a specific part of it, or was it just
even down to the fact when even my dream communication. So I'm getting, I'll give you an example of the kind of thing that happens to me now. So I've been practicing stepping more deeply into lucid dreaming, because that's got a big thing to do with where I'm going with my work next. And I'm at the point where I'm getting, you know, sparks of lucidity, but a lot of vivid and a lot of deep communications through the dream space. And the other night, I had this really weird dream. This famous business person, he's business. A friend of mine's in business with him, but he's quite famous, very popular. I'm not going to say names, but in my dream, we were in an apartment building, and we're like sitting down and like making food together, and it was really random. I was like, why am I in this dream with blah blah? And then in the dream, I zoomed out of the building and saw the building. And there was supposed to be something, I didn't know, but there was something specific that was being called to see about that. The next day, someone who's asked me to help them with something before calls and offers me to be a partner in a project, and they're partnering up with that person that was in the dream from the night before, that famous person.
Wow.
Like the next morning, the first call that came in was, Daniel, got to talk to you. That thing that we wanted your help with, we don't want your help now. We want you to be a partner in it. And by the way, this person there has sent us paperwork. They're in on the project. And I was like,
wow.
That person was just in my dream yesterday, and we were like sitting and eating food. And it's a real estate project, and it was an apartment building. So that's the kind of thing that's happening now.
Yeah.
Relationships with people, even like there's someone that I had just a funny feeling that there's like an issue with them, like an unknown issue. And in my dream, they told me what their problem was with me in the dream. And I was like, oh, well, you know, cool. But, you know, I explained it in the dream. And now my energetic relationship with that person is not, because it wasn't a spoken problem in the real world, like 3-dimensional reality. It was just a vibe, but that vibe has now changed because it was shifted in the dream space. Even down to like being at home, like I just know, and this is where it can be a bit awkward. Like I know when something's wrong, even if I've not been told I've done something wrong, I can just feel it. Even like, because we spend obviously time in 2 separate countries a lot of the time, I'll be like, yeah, something's up to date. I'll be like, what's going on? What do you mean? Well, I can kind of feel like something's up. Well, this happened and that happened and blah, blah, blah. And without evidence of it in 3-dimensional reality. And I'm just learning to trust that more.
Yes.
And in my work as well, I'm just learning to trust more that I'm having so much evidence now of the fact that it's not in my head. It's real tangible results of how engagement with energy is helping my decision making, is helping me in my ability to support people as well, to support myself, and just to move through life with this empowerment and grace and grooviness that's just getting more fun to watch and witness. So thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I love that. And that's exactly it. Like when you get connected, it's the internet, you know, it's the
internet. That's it.
It happens. And it happens all the time to me too. Even, you know, on doing this summit, that I'm doing. One of the speakers saw me, like I came to her, someone I didn't really know, I came to her through the ethers, she said, a couple weeks before I actually reached out to her, but I had written her name down on my paper 2 weeks previously. It's really funny. It's like she felt that, she got the call, she said yes to me to be a speaker before I even reached out to her. She was already an internal yes. And
Wow.
just things like that happen all the time. I will say it's because you're in your body, you're trusting your body, you're using your body as a tool, bringing the
Mm,
energy in, and then you're able to interface with the world of energy in a whole new way, more presently, there's just more available. And
mm,
I love your successes, and that's exactly it. It happens more and more and more the more you do it, and it's fun. It's
mhm.
fun. It's life becomes this big synchronistic, game, and you can play with people that aren't right in front of you, that across the pond if you want. It's
But
really fun.
I
I
could
love
definitely.
that.
Mm, mm. What's one thing you'd like to leave the listeners with in terms of them going off into their world now, looking at intention and embodiment and all this good stuff?
Ooh, I love that. Okay, I'm just going to leave you with whatever it is that your day looks like on a daily basis. Make sure to take time to connect, even if it's short, even if you're not a meditator and you don't want to be, I highly recommend being a meditator. It's the best way to connect. But if you can just take 5 minutes or even 3 to align yourself, get into your heart center, feel your heart space, connect up to a source of light above you. I like to say the central sun, the source of the divine masculine above your head, and bring the heart light energy of that divine light into your heart, joining with the heart light within you, and then connect into the center of the earth and the heart light of the divine mother, the divine feminine, and bring that energy up into your heart, creating this trinity portal of light in your heart. And then just bask there and expand into that. And that alignment, it can be 2 or 3 minutes, that
Mm,
will connect you in a way that is just expansive. If you do it every day for 3 minutes, you will expand in
mm,
your awareness, your consciousness, your energy, and your light. It's
mm.
worth it to take that moment. You can even do it in the car, at a stoplight. Probably shouldn't close your eyes when you're doing it in a car, but you can do it anywhere.
I love that. Connect through your heart. You can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yummy, yummy, yummy,
Yeah.
yummy.
And then practice that with other people, with your animals, with,
Mhm.
your triggers, everything. All right. So, Dan, you do some really amazing work in the world, and I've gotten to watch it and kind of tap into it a little bit. It's called Beyond Intention, and
Yep.
you work with people in a lot of different ways, including mindset, shifting your mind to create financial abundance. And I know that's a big part of your work. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works? Or maybe like even summarize what you do in a nutshell, because I know you're going to do a much better job sharing it. Give us
Well,
your elevator pitch.
so I, one of the reasons why I focus on the financial abundance is because my a part of my philosophy is that we can only experience what we're a vibrational match to. It's a law of vibration. So we need to be in alignment with our vibration. We can then only experience what we witness and that we believe is possible. So that's where the mindset comes in. And then we can only experience what we actually take our hands out to receive in our physical world. And that's where the physical action piece comes in. And I basically describe this as something I call the flow funnel. So my book, Stepping Beyond the Intention, I outline this diagram and I show that every desire that we have must be framed as a firm intention. We have to give a direction for the creation, the experience. Then we have to align our vibration to it, which we experience first in our emotional field. So we have to feel an alignment to it.
then we have to be open to the possibility of it. We have to be able to mentally rehearse it. If we can't mentally rehearse it, we probably don't believe it's possible. And then we have to show up in our lives acting in alignment with it. Otherwise, we lose it. And oftentimes we get so bogged down with needing stuff that when we go to create our health, or when we go and create loving relationships, we're just not able to get there because we're stuck dealing with the survival mode, fight or flight of money. And so I ended up spending a lot of time focusing on teaching people how to be financially abundant and create that alignment there, because I've just witnessed so often it's the thing that's standing between them and what they want. Just like you said, what's standing between you and your experience of the world. And for some people, it's those limitations in their abundance. But I do that along the sides of something I call bleed theory, which just aligns us back with the truth that everything's connected anyway. And so when people start their relationship with their financial abundance, often it starts to open doors to healing in their relationships, healing relationships with their body in terms of their health. And so we use this as a gateway to heal their experience as a whole.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's so true about the mindset that we really can't, it is the thing we hold, like we can't receive what we can't experience being,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can't, if we're not open to it. And a lot of that is our mind, because it's worthiness, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we
Yeah.
don't feel worthy, how are we going to receive that thing that we don't feel worthy of? I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And so tell me about, like, I know you have a lot of different types of clients, but what is there, like a common thread in what you find the transformation is that your clients experience?
Yeah. I think that the common thread, I think, comes down to one of the foundation points of Beyond Intention, which is that I'm the common denominator. So that the 4 steps of Beyond Intention are accept, clear, gratitude, and listen. And in short, they are: understand that you're responsible for what you create, curate a clean space, a conducive space to create by removing the energy blocks. That's what we do in step 2. We connect energetically to the outcome that we want, and then we step into a space of awareness of where we are so we can keep adjusting our experience. But all of this sits on top of one very important foundation, is that I am the common denominator. And I think in terms of one of the things I think facilitates the greatest breakthrough for most people that I work with is just realizing that you can keep blaming your mum or your dad or the government, President Trump, taxes, cyclical, this program, a past life. You can, and you're welcome to do that. It's your sovereignty, your sovereign right to do that. However, until you start accepting that at the center of every single experience is you, and that regardless of how much blame you want to apportion to others and how little responsibility you want to accept yourself, it is the most logical place to start with you. And once you accept full responsibility, you take on a massive amount of power with which you can start to really start choosing what you experience rather than being a slave to circumstance. And so underpinning everything, I think one of the greatest breakthroughs I think that people normally have is understanding that if I own it, no matter how difficult that may appear on the front end, then I can shift it. And then once I start experiencing that power and witnessing the evidence of it, I can start applying it to every single area of my life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, exactly. And, like overcoming being a victim of anything ever, right? There's no room, because when you're the creator and you're taking back the power from everything you've created, you realize, oh, I created that, and that's powerful. And there's no room for being a victim anymore.
No. And it's not always comfortable,
No.
the easy road is to blame. The easy road is to apportion responsibility to other people.
Yeah.
But on the other side of going through that fire of actually taking that responsibility is the opportunity to create all and any outcomes that you want to experience in your life, not tied to what happened in another lifetime or what happened when you were 5 or, how tall or short you are, what race you are, what gender. The second that you understand that none of these things need to hold you captive and take that leap into the unknown beyond those stories, then creation becomes anything that you want it to be.
Absolutely. I love that. You know, that is the ultimate, being the creator of your reality. And our reality is not, you know, what we experience is not how it is, it's how we are.
Exactly.
We all know
Exactly.
that saying well by now, right?
Hmm.
Yes, I love it. And so, how do people work with you? Is it one-on-one coaching, or do you do classes, or a mix of both?
Um, I very rarely take on one-on-one clients anymore. I put a lot into the work that I do with people on a one-to-one basis. And so I'm very, very, very selective about the people that I work with, and we work over a longer period of time. And generally, I will accept someone to step into a relationship with someone of that nature if we've done some group work together. So generally speaking, if people are working with me in person, it's with one of my coaching weekends, which I do around the world. They're generally on every 6 or 7 weeks. We have a house, very small group, 5 or 6 people maximum. We dive deep and do in-person work, in-person transformation work over a weekend, really stepping into our creative power. And other than that, it's my groups. My groups are a really cool space to do that. I do a lot of group calls, and I bring in guests, and we facilitate transformation across the board. And that's what we do.
Wonderful. So you do in-person groups and you do online groups, correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you do, you also have, well, give us your, all of your, I know you have a lot of stuff going on. Tell us, how do people reach you? And I will also put the links below so people can
Thank
find
you.
you. And I will tell people about what you're giving away in a moment. But
Cheers.
first, let's just give you a shout out. Where do we find you?
I think I'm actually streamlining everything, because one of the things I realized is that there was a lot of stuff
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
lots of places. So 2019 was about collecting evidence of my work, case studies, testimonials, and proving that what I'm talking about actually works. So now I really bolstered up the book of case studies, testimonies, and evidence. And in 2020 is about off the back of that, because when people can see that it works, then they can actually step into it fully and really commit to it. So streamlining everything down. So in terms of the group work now, it's predominantly Beyond Intention University. So all of the online programs and stuff that I've been producing and continue to produce, rather than being all over the place, people just join Beyond Intention University for a very simple, small, regular investment. They get access to all of that, plus group calls, which are me there answering questions, offering support digitally. So, wherever you are in the world. So Beyond Intention University is the primary function. Alongside that is Micro to Millions, my program specifically around financial abundance, which has just been changing lives over the last year. And then people can join a mastermind if they want to after that, once they've been through that stage, or they want a bit more, they can join it for a mastermind, or come to a coaching weekend, which is free to people that come to that are members of our masterminds.
Wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So your weekends or your retreats are free as long as
If you're in the
somebody's in your
mastermind with us.
program.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
If
I
you're in the
love that.
program. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'll be sure to put those links. And you also have a free gift offer, which is
I do
Becoming
indeed.
a Harmonious Money Magnet Revealed. And
Yep.
it's it's 3 classes. And tell us a little bit about what happens in those classes.
Okay. So one of the things that's really funny is that, like we're saying, like the financial abundance piece stands between so many people and getting where they want. But then there are all these stories around, I don't want to be a bad person, and money's evil, and I have to work really hard, and all of these stories that just stand between you and the thing that's standing between you and the thing that you want. And so what we explore in Becoming a Harmonious Money Magnet, which is more, I'd say it's just a very, very short video series. It just gets in there and gives you some really hands-on 3 things that you can do to just shift here and now, very gently, but very, very powerfully, your relationship to the creation of wealth and abundance, and to understand how it can happen in an aligned way. You don't have to go out there and hustle and graft. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to, there is work involved, but it can be from a space of flow. It can be through the heart. It can be from a space of love. And it can allow you to tap into the abundance that's yours naturally by divine right. And that's what we explore in that video series, which, yes, I'm very glad to be able to share that with the listeners and watchers.
Wow, wonderful. I love everything you just said, and it's so true, you know, like we have access to all of it and we just got to get out of our own way. And
Mhm.
I love that you're giving people access, free access to that class. And also, Dan, you are so generous. You're always giving things away. When people get into your groups and things, you're always doing like these free 5-day challenges, or, you know, like let's make $1 million challenges. So I love that. I love your generosity and your spirit, and this, it's the spirit of abundance. And I think that speaks to, you know, your work. You're creating millionaires, and in that there's plenty for everybody, and you're generous and you're giving things away. And I think that that shows, like, that's the truth of prosperity consciousness. You're generous, you're overflowing, you're giving. There's always more. There's never lack, and it's just this, you know, this beautiful free flow of energy and generosity. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for being generous, for doing the interview with me, and for sharing this free gift with our viewers. Everyone, go check out Dan Mangena's goodies. He's got the free gift, and he's got a book, Beyond Intention. Wait, what was, there's three, another,
Stepping beyond intention.
Stepping Beyond Intention.
Yeah.
And then check out his website for sure. All right. That is the end of this segment. So I want to say thank you, Dan, and thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
watching. I appreciate you all so much. And stay tuned, because we have a special bonus going forward. We're going to have 2 full days of replay of all of the videos, and that is my free gift to all of you. I'm so grateful for all of you for tuning in and watching and being a part of this show. So feel free to watch any of them for the next 48 hours, and enjoy. Namaste.
Oh, I like that one. Namaste. But we got to go.